I was thinking about it and I decided I don't think it's actually that bad that Trials was gone for about 2 weeks and then 1 weekend. I think it's a fine game mode, but I think that there's a lot that could be improved about it. And I think when it really comes down to it, I'm realizing that Trials not being around does not really negatively affect the Destiny community that badly. I think a 3v3 competitive PvP game mode is really fun for me personally, and I enjoy that quite a bit, but I don't know that Trials needs to fill that sort of niche. Trials has a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. A lot of the people who play it now played it in Destiny 1, and the people who play it enjoy the sort of aesthetic or brand around it of like, you know, there are tokens, there's the social space you go to if you go flawless, there's armor with a specific style about it, and there's this whole world surrounding it that makes it kind of feel meaningful in a way to a lot of people. And it is supposed to be sort of the endgame Destiny PvP situation. But when I think about Destiny PvP and how that is brought out through Trials, I don't think that Trials is the way. I think it's fine, but I think a different game mode for Destiny's endgame PvP could be a lot better. You could obviously just go with survival and make survival the same sort of excitement and style as Trials, where there's like a social space and a vendor and tokens and armor and rewards and a whole like sort of world built behind what the survival playlist is, and then you can just play that at any time, or I don't know, maybe the rewards get better on the weekend or more meaningful in some way. But I think what would be actually more interesting is if we kind of went back to a Trials of the Nine style thing, where sure, it can be around on the weekends, but when it's here, the playlist is not Elimination, and in the playlist, abilities are not as prevalent. I think Destiny PvP has always and will always come down to how good the guns feel. It's just really fun to shoot guns in Destiny, and I think a lot of PvP players feel this way. Is like shooting the guns is super fun, and they want to do that more, and they want to do the press the melee button or press the grenade button maybe a little bit less these days. Like that's fine and all, and it can be an exciting time or have funny moments happen when you use your abilities. But for the most part, I think when it comes down to it, Destiny PvP really shines through the gunplay, and it always has, and it always will. The interaction between abilities and gunplay is very interesting too, but lately we're in a very ability heavy meta, and so I think this is just bringing out more and more how much people really love the gunplay of Destiny. So I'm thinking if Trials were to go away for longer than a week, like let's say it literally goes away for like 2 seasons or something, that would be pretty long, but like if it did, that could be pretty good and potentially give the development team time to retune it entirely and to turn it into something that is not based entirely on Elimination. The reason I don't think Elimination works for Destiny PvP is that it encourages relying on abilities. Abilities are a really cool part of the Destiny universe because you're using like this awesome space magic, and it's just like super badass, and like that's fun. I like it a lot. But when you are put in a PvP situation where you don't have to shoot your guns and you can just wait for abilities to charge up, that's what you're going to do, because they are a much safer bet than relying on your aim, to be quite frank. Like if you don't have to rely on your aim and your team coordination, and you can just rely on like what sort of like ability charge time build you've made to like get your space magic back faster, you're going to do that, because that's probably a safer and easier bet to win a match than it is to have like a team game plan and to coordinate with your team to get a win. So I think that is naturally what Elimination encourages in Destiny PvP, is sitting back, getting your abilities, and relying on those to win rather than relying on team communication. Obviously, you still need to rely on team communication to some extent in Trials. Even if abilities are pretty heavy, you need to be talking to your team and, you know, saying what you're going to do and where you're going to go. But inherently, I think the high risk of Elimination, where if you die, you've basically lost the round for your team, just encourages you to sit around the corner, ideally with a sword or an emote if you have it, or if you can still do that, because I know that's going to be disabled soon. But even if you don't have one of those two things, you know, that's still going to be a really good strategy. is just like getting a Titan with Titan's ramparts, or just a barricade even, and just like sitting around a corner. So if that's not what endgame Destiny PvP is supposed to be, sitting around waiting for abilities, then I don't think Trials of Osiris / Elimination is the way that Destiny endgame PvP should be. I think a mode like Countdown or Survival might be a little bit better. Obviously with Countdown there are still revives, and getting downed is almost as bad as Elimination, but at least there the rounds get speed up a little bit because you either have to attack or defend immediately. And then in Survival, I think that's a really good game mode because getting a kill is a big advantage, and you don't have to hold down that kill. You can do things like calculating how valuable a trade is, or knowing that you have a moment of a 3v2 with your team and you can kind of try to coordinate that, which is really cool, while the enemy team is like waiting for their teammate to spawn up if you got a pick in the beginning. Or you can work on your super economy in Survival. All in all, Survival has some issues too, certainly, but the problems that arise in the Survival playlist, like your teammates dying and reducing your ability to respawn as often, or an enemy team getting one pick and then wanting to hang out in the back of the map and like wait to go to time, those aren't as bad as what Trials can go to, which is just sitting around for 2 minutes waiting for abilities and then going to the flag and doing some weird ability spam on the flag point. I think that's a lot worse than it is to get a pick and then, be hanging out in a survival match and trying to, defend your teammates from dying. Because then your enemy only has to get one pick and then, that's it. They're tied. The round's dynamic has now totally changed. So I think for several reasons, Survival is a much more interesting playlist than Elimination. And so that's why I think reconsidering what Destiny's endgame PvP should be, because currently it's not Survival, it is Trials. That is, it's clear that's what Bungie wants it to be, with, the cool loot and the social space and the tokens and the like exclusivity of just happening on the weekend and having the cards you have to buy and things like that. It's clear Trials is what they see as the PvP endgame. I think that it would be really good if that playlist were reconsidered. And if it's reconsidered to be something like Survival, I think that could be good, or even something else entirely could be potentially even better. I don't quite know what that would be. I think Countdown could be fun too, but I think Elimination is one of the poorer choices for Destiny endgame PvP, because it naturally, inherently invites sitting around waiting for your abilities and not peeking, because peeking is a huge risk. And like I said, people are going to find ways to do that even if swords and emotes are removed. So all in all, to wrap up this discussion of endgame Destiny PvP, it's cool that Trials exists, and there's a lot of reasons for it to exist, like having a cool endgame mode and the nostalgia of Destiny 1 and all that. But overall, I don't think that's enough reason to keep it around as the sort of premier Destiny endgame. So I hope Bungie feels that they have the capacity or the energy / interest to change Trials to be a different type of game mode, or even change the whole Trials of Osiris thing entirely and totally rebrand it. But whatever happens, I think a great way to make Destiny endgame PvP feel worthwhile, valuable, competitive, and rewarding is to change the game mode of Trials, or whatever it's going to be called. It doesn't have to be 3v3, it doesn't have to be Elimination. It just needs something that's a little bit more encouraging of the excellent primary gunplay that we all know and love in Destiny. As always, thanks for your time, and I hope you'll stop by again. Alright, see ya.
He got res. Don't go. Okay. Oh.
Yes, sir. We're in there for them clutch plays, baby.